What if I told you there's a place so terrifying? Even the police called it the toy box from hell. A place built not for children, but for nightmares. Tonight, on Crimes Without Borders, we travel deep into the New Mexico desert, to a small town called Truth or Consequences. And there, in a rusted trailer beside a lake, one man turned his fantasies into fear. His name was David Parker Ray, and he called his creation the Toy Box. Listener discretion advised. This is one of the darkest cases you'll ever hear. David Parker. Ray wasn't what most would imagine a killer to be. Born in 1939 in Belen, New Mexico, he grew up in a strict, abusive home. His father was violent, his mother distant, and as a child, David was often left alone, building model cars, tinkering with tools, and keeping to himself. But there was something else. By the time he was a teenager, he began collecting sadistic magazines and drawings. His sister once found disturbing pictures hidden in his room, women bound, gagged, terrified. When she showed their father, he barely reacted. David grew into a quiet, polite man, a mechanic, respected by neighbors, friendly, even helpful. No one knew that behind his calm smile, he was building a chamber of horror. David called it the Toy Box. It was a 22-foot-long steel trailer parked beside Elephant Butte Lake. Inside, he spent years transforming it into what he called his special place. The walls were soundproof. Every inch was lined with chains, pulleys, surgical tools, saws, and restraints. There were mirrors on the ceiling, cameras on the walls, and a cassette player waiting beside the bed. And that tape, that's what made this case truly horrifying. When investigators later found the tape, it began with David's voice.
Calm, cold.
He had recorded it for his victims, to play when they regained consciousness. On that tape, David explained in detail what he planned to do.
Not to kill, but to break them. For over 30 minutes, he described rules, punishments, and what he called training. He told them to think of him as master and themselves as slaves. He told them escape was impossible.
And worst of all, he spoke with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before, because he had. David didn't work alone. His girlfriend, Cindy Hendy, became his partner. She later confessed she helped lure women, often hitchhikers or sex workers, into his trap. Once inside the trailer, the victims were sedated, chained, and forced to listen to that horrific tape before the abuse began. Some were held for days, others for weeks. When he was done, David would drug them again, then dump them on highways, alive but traumatized, their memories blurred by chemicals. Many victims never came forward, either too terrified or too confused to believe what had happened. He nearly got away with everything. But in 1999, after decades of darkness, one woman escaped. Her name was Cynthia Vigil. She was 22 years old, kidnapped from an Albuquerque parking lot. For 3 days, she was chained inside the toy box, enduring what no human should. But then, opportunity struck. When David left for work, Cindy Hendy accidentally left the keys within reach. Cynthia managed to free herself, and when Hendy returned, Cynthia fought back. She stabbed Hendy with an ice pick and ran, naked, bleeding, and chained, through the desert until she reached a nearby trailer.
Help! Help!
The police were called, and for the first time, the toy box was opened. The officers who entered the trailer later said it was like walking into hell. Drawings of naked women covered the walls. Instruments of torture were organized with surgical precision. There were whips, clamps, saws, and medical equipment, all labeled and sterilized. On a workbench, police found detailed journals, with entries describing over 40 victims. Each entry included the date, the method, and chillingly, their progress. But despite the records, only 3 survivors were ever identified. The rest? No bodies were ever found. In 2001, David Parker Ray was brought to trial. Prosecutors called him one of the most sadistic criminals in American history. Yet without physical bodies, many charges were difficult to prove. He was convicted for the abduction and torture of 3 women, including Cynthia. He received 224 years in prison. Cindy Hendy, his accomplice, was sentenced to 36 years, later reduced after cooperating with investigators. David never showed remorse. When reporters asked why he did it, he smiled and said,
Everyone has their own thing. This was mine.
In 2002, just 1 year into his sentence, David Parker Ray suffered a heart attack and died in his cell. Some said justice came too soon. Others believed death was too easy for him. Investigators continued searching for the remains of his victims, scouring the desert and Elephant Butte Lake. But nothing was ever found. It's believed that David's accomplices, possibly including his daughter and friends, helped dispose of the evidence. The desert keeps its secrets, and in that silence, the screams remain. Even today, residents of Elephant Butte Lake say they can't look at trailers the same way. Some refuse to camp near the area. Others swear they've seen strange lights near the site at night, and hear faint whispers when the wind hits the metal walls just right. The Toy Box Killer left behind no bodies, no closure, just fear, and the knowledge that monsters can live next door, unnoticed. He wasn't a shadow in the alley. He was a neighbor, a mechanic, a friend. Evil. Quiet, polite, organized evil, hiding in plain sight. David Parker Ray built his own world, one of control, cruelty, and silence. He thought he was untouchable. And maybe, for a while, he was. But truth always escapes, just like Cynthia Vigil did. Because no matter how deep you bury horror, it always finds a way to surface. You've been listening to Crimes Without Borders. I'm CB, and this was the Toy Box Killer. Tell me in the comments, do you think there are more toy boxes out there still undiscovered? Remember, evil doesn't hide in darkness. It builds its own. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.